Network.
Hello, Marc here with another edition of the Valhalla Movement podcast. And today we have a guest that's kind of, that's piqued my interest in something I've seen before online. And I'm sure you guys have seen before too, from Food is Free. And if you guys want to follow along, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. I'm going to introduce our guest in a second here. But before I get to that, I'm going to talk a little bit about green seed. Now, I know I probably sound like a broken record to the people who listen to this podcast every single week or every single time we put it out there. And green seed really is something that we're excited about. It really is something that Valhalla is going to be working on more and more and more. And really, we're excited because we're going to be empowering you. Right now, if you go on our green seed, on our current website, what you're seeing is a beta. You're seeing a WordPress plugin that we've put on our site. We funded a couple of things and projects like the solar panel project that we did, now like, the hemp campaign that we're running and we're trying to get funded and moving. And all of these, have been related to Valhalla. But the truth is that when we're running a project, we know that we're not the only people with ideas. We're not the only people who want to take action. We're not the only people who are looking to make a difference in this world. And we know that you guys have great ideas, but that you also need markets. You also need like market support and social support. You guys need resources like money and I don't know, wood, or you need food, or you need all kinds of stuff. And so what Green Seed is all about is crowdsourcing all of those different elements that you would need for your social cause or sustainable initiative, and allowing that to be crowdsourced in one place. And so not only are you going to be able to fund and get your projects off the ground, but you'll also be able to get your movements off the ground. So it's not just project-based, it's really something you can also do on an ongoing basis. We're basically becoming the Kickstarter of the sustainable movement. And so this is something we're really excited about. I want to ask you guys, if you're interested in knowing more about our launch, visit greenseed.me. That's greenseed, all one word, .me. And that is where you guys can get more information. We're gonna put out some more info soon. Now, enough of that. We're gonna dive into a project that's been kind of going on for I don't even know how long, but I know it's been popping up on my Facebook news feed every once in a while, and I think it's been getting a lot of attention pretty much around the States. We've got John VanDeusen Edwards, who is the founder of Food is Free Project, and if you guys want to follow along, you guys want to look at any of this stuff, in the description, or just type in your browser foodisfreeproject.org. You can get more info. But thank you, John, for being a part of our podcast.
Thanks, Don.
So, what is Food is Free? Like, anybody who's listening to this who might be coming from the Valhalla side, they've possibly seen something about Food is Free, but they don't really know what it is, who you guys are, like, where did this start, where is this coming from, and maybe you want to kind of dive into a little bit of that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Food is Free, the Food is Free project, it started as a front yard garden here on our block in Austin, Texas. And that front yard garden, we ended up talking to neighbors and, people that were passing by. And we realized that by being out in front of the privacy fence, we were really putting ourselves in a more vulnerable place, but we're also putting ourselves in a place where we could interact with the community. Mm-hmm. So that actually inspired, just kind of through those interactions over the course of a couple months, I started to wonder what it would look like if my whole block got to experience that connection. And I don't know, I was just it was a crazy daydream of like, what if we lined a whole block in the city with front yard gardens? Mm-hmm. What would that look like, and how would it change the community? So we put out a big call to Austin, and we had a big kickoff party to kind of share the vision, and it was really well accepted. And we basically told them the plan that we were going to have these work days on our farm and build these wicking bed gardens that you only have to water them every 2 to 4 weeks or so. It's kind of like a aquifer inside of a raised bed. Mm-hmm. And so we figured we figured by having these wicking bed gardens, it makes it really easy to maintain. We can build these out of pallets and salvage materials and provide them for free and use volunteer labor to bring people together. And so within 5 weeks of having that kickoff party, we had lined 19 of the 30 houses on our street in these front yard garden beds.
Wow.
And so then the idea was that neighbors were allowed to harvest from each other's garden, and it was a front yard community garden. One that, we can't obviously grow everything we need to eat from that little raised bed garden, but it starts to open up more collaborations and connections and conversations. And it totally started shifting the dynamic on our street, and neighbors started waving more and interacting. And, neighbors that literally hadn't met in the past 20 years were meeting for the first time out in front of these gardens. So it was something really magical, and we got excited and wanted to share that vision online. So that's when it kind of shifted from more of this neighborhood project into this open source movement, where we were, we didn't really know what we were starting, but we were like, well, we're just going to share this vision, and anyone who's inspired to take this idea and make it their own or make it better, tailor it to fit their community. We're just excited about what we're creating, in the middle of a big urban city where we feel so disconnected.
And so when did this kick off? Like when was that moment that you just went out there and made this front yard garden?
That front yard garden I planted was in November of 2011, and we ended up having the kickoff party in January of 2012. Wow. So within 5 weeks of that kickoff is when we had lined the block. And, so since then we've been developing. We live on a double lot here on our block, so we have about a half acre, which we've been developing into an urban teaching farm with aquaponic systems and chickens and miniature pigs and community composting and a big pond and an outdoor kitchen. And so everything has been evolving over those past couple of years now. And we're hosting workshops, and people come and learn how to make hummus or how to preserve their food or how to make their own kombucha, and send everyone home with a little SCOBY culture to start their own batch, so things like that.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And so this is all started at, like, is this a house that you own? Is this a house where you were just one day you were like, okay, let me go outside, let me take a couple of pallets, build a little garden, and then plant some food in it. Just where did that come from? What led you to that moment? What led you to, before getting the pallets, before buying the earth or getting the seeds? What was kind of inspiring this within you?
It's funny because as I look back on it, I can kind of see how each little step sort of led to the next. But I guess how it really kind of started was I was gifted some seeds from a friend who was leaving town, and she was like, here, I want to give you these seeds. And I hadn't really ever started a garden, and we'd kind of had a garden growing up, but I wasn't really involved in it. So it wasn't really in my consciousness, in my awareness to start a garden. But by being gifted these seeds, I almost kind of felt like it was, this potential life was in my hands, and maybe now it's my responsibility to give it a try. I failed miserably on my first garden, but I fell in love with it though, and I grew these little, I started little baby carrots in my seed starting tray and try to transplant my baby carrots. And I realize now that, you throw your carrot seeds probably directly in the ground. That's a lot more ideal. You can't transplant these little baby carrots, I don't know. It's just funny because I was making little small mistakes like that. And actually the next thing that really took it to the next level was I was living on this double lot, but the whole empty lot next to me wasn't being used, and it was overgrown. And I was just looking out there and I was wishing that I could, that it wouldn't be going to waste. I was like, maybe if I had a dog, or, maybe if there was some reason that it wouldn't just be sitting there overgrown, that would be nice. And I ended up connecting with a group called Urban Patchwork Farms, that they basically connect people who have space and want to host their little kind of neighborhood CSA and in a patchwork of backyards around the neighborhood. So I let them use my space, and they came in, and one morning 50 volunteers showed up, and it was 9 a.m. and all these people start trickling in, so excited. We start spreading out mulch over the whole yard, and then pickaxing the clay, and planted 500 potatoes, and then still had time to eat potluck food, and everyone was gone by 3 p.m. So it was like within 6 hours, we planted a farm and shared food together. And, all of a sudden there was this little mini farm in the middle of an urban block, and it started to just blow my mind to realize, like, wow, why aren't we doing this every week? Or why doesn't every street have a little bit of their own food,
Mm-hmm. And so now at this point, fast forward to today, you built this garden, and it was something that called to you. It's something that you kind of had been gifted, which is a beautiful story, number one. But number two, it's also really inspiring because it seems like what you decided to do is take part in that action. And then so you did it at your own place and where you were staying. And it's kind of barreled into what now? Like, so are you guys like an organized, a non-for-profit or something, or at this point, like what is the organization of Food is Free? And are you guys like, are you living off this? Is this something that you're now employing people? Like, how has it grown? It has a mushroomed since, basically.
Cool. Well, as soon as we realized that what we were doing was resonating with others, we got a little bit of local press, and we got some help from a lawyer, and we did file for a 501c3 nonprofit. So we have obtained that status. But on a bigger level, we're actually, how we see ourselves as having even more potential is really a grassroots movement. So we've kind of open sourced the concept. We've open sourced the name Food is Free Project, and open sourced our logos and the vision. And so we put a form on our website for people who want to start a Food is Free project in their city, and they can kind of let us know about their situation, and we can start to connect and start those conversations. And we've had over 190 cities on every continent fill out that form. And so we're, and a lot of them are taking action and just making it happen. And even though it may start as literally their first front yard garden. And that's what I tell them is, it starts with that first garden. Don't worry, like it will grow, and you will meet people, and everything will evolve, So we have, now we've kind of developed this bigger social media following. We have people around the world that are sharing their excess harvests on their curb or in public with a little hashtag Food is Free, and from Slovakia or UK or Brazil or Mexico and Australia. It's really exciting. So we're creating this kind of network of people who are taking action in their communities, who are inspiring those around them and inviting others to join that cause. So we right now we see it as just a network of so much potential and possibility, and it's sort of, right now we don't know exactly what form that's going to take next, but we do have goals to create online forums of connection where people in different cities can start meeting each other and start getting ideas from each other and sharing what works and how to make it better.
Wow, that's amazing. And so this literally seems like it spawned almost out of nowhere for you. Like, what were you doing before? Like, did you go to school? Like, I mean, obviously, you're talking about, your first garden, failed or whatever. I think everyone's does. It doesn't seem like you went to school for any of this. Like, where, what are you doing before this? Like, what's your background? Like, what is your training in any way? Because it seems like there's a lot of people who come to Valhalla, for example, and are like, oh, you must have went to school for agriculture. I'm like, nope, I graduated in marketing and entrepreneurship. That's what I know, And they're like, oh, okay, that's why your website's nice or whatever, But it's just one of those things. So I wonder what's your background in this?
Totally. Well, it's funny. I'm born and raised here in Austin, so I'm very much a city boy. I grew up not knowing my neighbors, and I thought that was normal. And I grew up, with my parents having a small garden, but I wasn't involved, so I didn't really have a background in that. I ended up going to film school here at the University of Texas, so that also isn't related. but I fell in love with telling stories and documentary film, and then I had a whole lot of college debt, so I ended up actually going into sales with a bunch of my friends, and it's crazy, but I ended up selling insurance door to door in the boonies of Texas, basically talking to people about cancer and why we have it, and people started bringing up the food that we're eating and the water and the chemicals in our lifestyles. And I mean, that actually started to open up my mind a whole lot to things I wasn't really thinking about. So it was kind of, I was doing this crazy job, working in sales, and I was very successful in sales, and I was being told, you're doing so great, we're going to build this team around you, and in 10 years you'll get your stock options, and that started to freak me out. So I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. And I didn't really know what I was getting into next, but I started a little backyard farming training company with a friend, just because I was meanwhile kind of falling in love with gardening, and he was teaching me aquaponics. And so we started to host some workshops on my farm, but we were charging people like $20 a workshop, and it started to not really feel right to me. I was seeing a lot of the same people coming out, and I realized that to really get this information out, it needs to be free and accessible. And the people who really need it should be able to have access to it. Mm-hmm. So it's funny because meanwhile, as this is happening, I'm having this vision of lining the block in gardens, and having my sales mentality actually really paid off, because I learned sales that if whoever covers the objections in advance will win the argument. So I was like, I'm gonna go knock on these doors, and I'm gonna ask people if they want a front yard garden. And I realized, what are the reasons people might say no? Well, they might not have enough time or energy. They might not have the money to start a garden, or they might not. They might think they'll fail. Everyone says I have a black thumb, So those were issues right off the bat that I realized if we could address those, build the wicking bed gardens, they're easier to maintain. So for people who think they've failed or who don't have much time, you just put a hose in there once a month, So and then if we can build them out of salvage materials, we make them more accessible, and we can offer them for free, So I started to realize if we can eliminate the reasons why people aren't gardening, then that makes it that much easier to start. So, although in the moment I didn't realize that sales background would really help me with where I ended up, it really did help me with learning how to communicate with people, realizing where people are coming from and how we can relate to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I love that. It sounds like such an awesome tale. Like, it seems like all of this was just bestowed upon you in the most kind of no, but it is. It's like that though. You know what I mean? Like that's how Valhalla started. Like, I don't know do you think I ever thought that I would be running a non-profit and talking about building earthships or now these Valhalla villas that we're working on, or doing permaculture or any of this stuff? I would have told you you're crazy a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? I'd be like, no, like that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a businessman and an entrepreneur. And the truth is, I still am. I just choose to do it for something that I really passionately believe in, more so than my wallet believes in. You know what I mean? And to be honest, I think my wallet is actually, it's catching up nonetheless. Like, I think both of them actually kind of work hand in hand. If you do what you love, you're going to end up making money, and you're going to be able to give away these things for free as well. Right? Like, food is free is such a great idea, and I love the fact that you guys are going towards the open source side of it, right? And that's kind of what we want to do too with Green Seed. Like, this is exactly why, we knew, okay, this is what we know, and this is the information that we have, and this is the kind of work that we're able to do as kind of, people within this more global movement for change and hope, I guess. And then in that, I sounded like Obama there, jeez. But in that, what it moves towards is that we can actually kind of get to a point where more people's ideas, more people's input, more people's time and money and efforts and all these different movements can now start like kind of free flowing and coming together. And I think that's kind of what is just really, really, really important to consider, is that we need to find a way to work together, and we need to find a way to know our neighbors and to not be strangers, and to really open source not only kind of what we know, but also who we know, and also our lives in general. And it seems like the Food is Free project is all about that, and I commend you for it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the open source community is it's such an exciting one to see growing right now. It's because the way I look at it is, I mean, money is a tool, and it can be used for good, or it can be used, for evil in a sense. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not the tool that's wrong. It's the intention. So, I think a lot of nonprofits are afraid to make money, or a lot of for-profits are afraid to make money in a good way. But now I think that is shifting, and it's really exciting to see the consumers supporting conscious businesses. We're seeing new normals coming up, being created left and right. And the way I look at it is, if you're hoarding your ideas, if you're hoarding your knowledge, you're really, it's that selfish mentality that's going to end up leaving you stuck in the old world. Like, at this new world that's evolving, this one that's open and connected and shared, if you don't kind of get with the times, you're going to be kind of left behind in the dust, the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And so what makes you, so you've been doing this basically since 2012, which is basically around what the time Valhalla came into existence as well. And what are you seeing around you that is kind of changing? Like, obviously now that your mind is open to this kind of this work and this movement, and now obviously you must get a lot of people who reach out to you, including myself, let's say as an example, who now are in this same mentality. But do you feel that even in Austin, Texas, which or in Texas as a whole, which is probably a little bit more conservative and a little bit more kind of, I don't know, it's I guess you wouldn't expect this to necessarily be kicking off in Austin, but it seems like really the truth is that is being shattered right now, that this is kicking off everywhere and it's growing. And so I'm wondering what you feel about how this is all growing. Like, what do you see more and more people coming to this? Do you think more and more people are actually going to do front yard or backyard gardening?
Totally. I think, actually, even here around Austin, as a microcosm of the bigger world, we started this project here on our block, and we went out and planted quite a few gardens around Austin as well. But now, even around Austin, we're starting to, I'll have friends or people come up and say, hey, I saw that garden y'all put in at this corner or at that corner, and the same style with the wooden pallets and the political signs. And I was like, no, we didn't put that one in, and it's that excites me to realize that, like, now these gardens are popping up left and right, and other people are starting to kind of just take notice more. But also, we're getting messages every day, like through our social media from around the world, from people who are sharing with us what they're doing in their communities. And a lot of people are starting, whether it's starting a food forest or starting a neighborhood clothing swap, or a meetup group for their neighbors to start sharing meals together and potluck, or it can take so many faces. And like we have a school bus that we drive around town, and on the back of it says "Live your dream." And it's like we really don't expect everyone to grow food or to be farmers, but we do feel like food unites us, and that if we'll meet in the garden, we'll start other conversations about what we want to do and how we can help each other really follow our vision, because I do feel like everyone has something to contribute. And if we can all start creating this network of support and trust, and it's when I realize that there's other people out there that are like-minded, then I feel less alone. I mean, before getting into a lot of this, I felt so paralyzed as to how I could make a difference in the world. And with so much corruption and so much war and violence in the world, how can I make it any better? I'm so small. How can I actually make a difference? And that paralyzing fear never gets us anywhere. And it wasn't until I started to connect with other communities and other people who are making things happen, and who are actually making a difference, whether it's small or large. I mean, it's any difference that's made once we start to connect up and connect the dots. All those differences really, truly culminate into something huge.
That's true. I love that. And that mentality, I think, is proving to be more and more true as we move forward. It seems like this is just, it's just happening. It's just everywhere I look, everywhere around me, it seems like more and more people are jumping on board with kind of, I want to say, shaping a better world. Right? That's kind of like the general sense of what that is. Like, I think we all have different definitions of how we're going to do that and what that looks like. But that's normal. You know, I think that's normal, and we're never going to be fully all on one page on everything we got to do to make it happen. But the point is that I don't know of anybody who doesn't believe that we should make it happen. And I don't know of anybody who kind of sees something like food is free and is like, oh, that's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, it's just kind of, it's actually making more and more sense, and it seems like more and more people are joining. And it seems like there's what I would call almost like a social revolution, where not only did we go on social media, but now we are actually joining up on social causes. There's actually a much larger movement to change things like gay rights, or change things like, I don't know, the fact that the GMO foods are polluting our land and our hearts and our bodies. Really, it seems like a lot of that is moving towards this change. But I'm kind of interested in your groundwork, and I say this because I know this is coming on the heels of some news that you got at this point. And you guys have this space that you've been using for a while, and it's been kind of the HQ for Food is Free. But I know, and I've heard that you guys are basically being kicked out. So maybe tell me a little bit about that story and how that's going on, and then what you guys are doing to address it.
Yeah. Well, we've been operating this urban teaching farm here pretty much since we had our kickoff, and it's evolved into this really active and alive space where every week we have open farm tours, and kids and adults coming through the farm weekly, and people they come here, and it's a space that people don't only come to learn, but they come to be inspired, and they come to meet each other and connect. And so that's what we see is just so much more possibility for that. However, last week our landlord stopped by, and he basically sat down to tell us that he received a letter in the mail, and he was offered $450,000 cash for this property. And he really needs the funding right now. He's barely breaking even on the taxes he's having to pay in Austin, which is it's very telling about Austin's growth and Austin's development. I mean, it's the fastest growing city in the United States, which is, as a native Austinite, I try to stay as positive as possible about that growth. Reminding people, hey, we're not going through what Detroit's going through with everyone leaving the city abandoned. We have an opportunity to be a model for other cities for how you grow in a sustainable way, and start creating urban food systems that can feed that growth. However, now we're starting to see other treasures around Austin that I've really held close to my heart have lately also been lost. A place called the Enchanted Forest, which is a really magical plot of land in the center of Austin that's brought together so many people and had so many amazing community gatherings and events, and it's being lost to development. And it's a struggle to deal with. And I mean, we basically kind of shared with our fans online what we were going through, and we told them that we don't know what to do, and that we aren't sure of what the next step is. But we let them know what's happening, and we received overwhelming support and love and faith in the future of Food is Free. And we were reminded by the community that's been created around this idea that Food is Free project is already it's becoming a vision that can exist anywhere, and that it doesn't only exist where it started, which is really, it's crazy to realize that. It's like, wow, it's true that it can exist without that, without what we thought of as its heart. What we realized is that its heart has kind of spread around the world, and now we will find another space. And people really, they came through to tell us that honestly, we're here to support y'all in a crowdfunding effort, but maybe your money might be better spent being open to evolving to a new property where you have more than a half acre, where you can expand your ideas and you can house people from around the world to come and visit and take that knowledge back to their communities. And so now we're really open to seeing how this vision can grow, and how we can turn this the seeming problem into an amazing opportunity that we would have otherwise never imagined. I mean, I don't know, if we would have taken that that jump if maybe we didn't receive this nudge. So now that's how I'm starting to realize it, and I'm starting to see so much hope and possibility, and it's really exciting. So we've been, we have a sense of urgency because we don't, we don't know how much longer they'll let us stay here. It's a pretty short timeline. It looks like, probably like 3 to 6 months or less. So yeah, I mean, we're launching this kickstarting effort where we've been filming the video this week and getting it together, and basically, we're really excited to share this next evolution of Food is Free, and wherever Food is Free ends up, we see our next plot of land as an opportunity to start a farm from a blank canvas and document every step of the way and open source all those blueprints and plans online, and really, push the envelope to bring people together and mix ideas that maybe have never been mixed together and create a space of research and development that can then inspire others to continue to make these ideas grow and take them and make them their own and make them better. So we're really excited that maybe this will give us a new opportunity to create a lot of amazing content, to film an amazing story of how something like this can grow and unfold, and who knows what else may come of it.
Well, it seems like it's just a continuation in your story. Your story had such a beautiful beginning with somebody gifting you seeds. It had such a beautiful beginning and kind of bringing your neighbors together and turning, like you said, 19 out of 30 houses on the block having a front yard garden. I mean, just that alone is like game changing, I think. And it's, it's telling to our times of, like you said, the rising taxes in Austin, and the rising taxes really in many cities across America and across the world. Things are getting expensive these days, and there's very few things that are free, if you will. And I love that what you are doing is basically kind of going against that grain, and through that, you guys are being rewarded. And as you said, I think this is an opportunity for you guys. I think as much as, like any good movement, any good story always had a bad guy, and it always had some adversity. Like, I think I was saying this literally yesterday, where I was like, nobody would have cared about Gandhi, okay, or we wouldn't know his name around the world in the same way that maybe they would have known his name in India, had they not like clubbed down all the Indians, and had he not kind of had the adversity that they had in the first place. If the kind of the United Kingdom just kind of let go of India and just said, oh yeah, no problem, have your independence with ease, okay, we would have never heard the story of Gandhi. But instead, what we hear is, yes, the story of to some degree tragedy, but also a story of triumph. Also a story that, we love to see people kind of succeed against the odds. We love to see the underdogs kind of take hold, and I think this is one of those stories. I think you now, you said you studied film. You have the ability to now tell this story. You have the ability to now document it and show how it's going to shapeshift. And I think that, more than what you guys are even doing at this moment, will actually inspire even more people. Like, not to say that you guys aren't already inspiring people, but I think it's going to inspire people even to the next level of saying, shit, I'm already gardening, but man, I wasn't doing this, or I wasn't thinking about going to that level. Or maybe they're going to say, hey, maybe I'm going to come out and be a part of what's going on with what you guys are going to be doing next. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't even think you guys know necessarily 100% what that looks like. But I do think, more than anything, you guys definitely have faith in it. And that faith, that kind of blind passion, with foresight of like understanding what you guys are doing and how you guys can do it, and what the many roads that lead to Rome, in a sense. That's what's going to carry you forward. That's what's going to enable you to continue to inspire others. And I know that, like, I don't even know what it means to make a Food is Free project or what your form looks like, but I think Valhalla should fill it out, and we should be, an official chapter of that here in Montreal, because I think what you guys are doing is really inspiring. I think it's really, I think it's going to continue to move. And as you guys said, you guys have had numerous people sign up from around the world, but I wonder what the next step is for this. And I was speaking to somebody who was doing a little bit of a market garden. Not a little bit, but he literally wrote the book, The Market Gardener. And phenomenal. He's in Quebec. He's basically right nearby where we are, about maybe an hour and a half, or sorry, an hour away from Montreal, maybe about half an hour, 45 minutes away drive from where I'm standing right now. And in this, he's kind of made a living through actually selling the food. Now, I know your whole thing is food is free, and I understand that what you guys are promoting is that people grow their own food. But would you guys consider selling food if people were willing to buy it from you?
That's a great question. I right now, I hadn't actually really thought about if we'd be open to it. Because right now the way our farm exists has been that it excites us that someone can walk by and is allowed to just pick a tomato and maybe eat their first homegrown tomato for the first time. Because the first time I knew of community gardens, they were always they had a fence around them, and I didn't know that I was maybe invited to go in. So that's one thing we've always been pretty adamant about, is making sure people feel comfortable walking past or coming in and being invited to come take a little harvest, so that they can then maybe pay that back or pay it forward in some way, whether it's coming back and getting your hands dirty with us, or maybe even helping someone else in their garden. But we're definitely not closed-minded to any idea. We want to stay open-minded and consider all options. But I think right now we've kind of found a foothold or a specialty of inspiration, education, and enabling and empowering others. So I don't see us. I think we definitely support local farmers, and we have lots of partnerships with other local farms here in town that donate their extra seedlings to our farm, and we help redistribute them to others who otherwise might not be gardening, and then we in turn can help promote the local farms and spread the word about what they're doing, and a lot of people, even if they do get their first homegrown tomato for free, a lot of them may not take the extra step to grow it, but maybe they'll be turned on to local food and be like, wow, I didn't realize that tomatoes actually had flavor, and I didn't realize this heirloom tomato was so amazing. What have I been eating my whole life? And then they start going to the farmer's market and supporting them on a weekly basis. So, most farmers that I sit down and talk to, they totally get that the phrase "food is free." It can be controversial to some, but many people it inspires. A lot of people, it gets them thinking in some way. Oh, well, why isn't food free if it's not? And also food not being just free monetarily, but being free from a broken food system that's just not working. We need to start learning how we can free that food from a broken system and create a sovereign, decentralized network of safe, healthy, clean food that's all coming from ultra local sources, not just from outside the city, but from our own backyard and the front yard of our neighbor. So that's that phrase "food is free" is it's one that can be taken many ways, and that's what we love about it, is that it gets people thinking. And I like to to joke with people, but also tell them in a loving way that we're the only species on planet Earth that pays for food. I mean, we turned it into a commodity, and if we're not willing to look past other alternatives, then we'll be stuck there. But a lot of people, you can just walk around the block, and if you have the right knowledge, you can realize there's already tons of edible food growing right under our noses.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I like that. I think it makes a lot of sense that you guys kind of maintain that as much as you possibly can. I love that you. I guess I just wonder what's next. I guess I myself am curious as to what is going to happen with you guys and where you guys are going to take this, and what is the model that not only enables you guys to continue to kind of promote this, but allows you to be funded as well. You know what I mean? I think it makes a lot of sense that you guys be able to make this your full-time jobs, because I know that that's only going to help it grow. It's only going to help make your online presence and your offline presence continue to flourish more and more and more, and garnish more and more support. And I guess part of that is going to come from people who are listening to this right now and just go and volunteer some time and help out. But a lot of that is also going to come from some version of a business model, right? Some version of this is what we're going to need to do to kind of maintain a certain amount of sales. And it might be donations, it might be as a nonprofit or something, but it also might be some other version of I don't know, selling something, or, you know, asking for like pay what you want kind of system or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I love the pay what you want system, and I think we've seen it work for a lot of people. You know, especially a lot of musicians that already have a big audience. You know, and I feel like if you have a big audience, you can there's people who will make up for the people who can't afford it. So I mean, it's possible that we're starting to reach a breaking point where if we set up a pay what you want system for our open source blueprint plans, we could offer them for free. But if someone, you know, really felt called or inspired to support it, they could. You know, so I don't know. I think that we can get creative with, you know, donations and potentially with grants. You know, I mean, really, what we've been excited is that we've been able to do so much without very much. But we do know that what's around the next corner. You know, it's going to take some funding, you know, getting a new property and, you know, creating some of these website tools that can connect these local food is free projects, and you can find the closest food is free project to you, and you can connect with them and maybe borrow their shovel and lend them some of your carrot seeds, and, you know, and then all of a sudden you trade vegetables and meet each other in the garden and start other conversations and end up, you know, building a community around yourself. So setting up those kinds of infrastructures are not easy and not free. So we're definitely open to, you know, we do believe that if we keep focusing on, you know, doing the right thing and spreading, you know, positive interaction and inspiration, that you know, someone will step up and really want to support this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Just stick to what you do and do it well, and continue to make it flourish and continue to make it grow, and then people will come and they will reward you for it somewhere. You know, somewhere down the line, they will come. Somebody will, like, all the things that you will need will just kind of come to you.
So far, that's how it's been, you know. I mean, even when we first lined our block in gardens, there were some costs, but we had a couple neighbors step up and say, you know, I don't have the time right now to help, but here, I'd like to donate, you know, this small, like, you know, financial contribution for your screws and for, you know, some soil or, you know, whatever it may be. So we feel like there's some people who in this movement, they can contribute their time, and others who can contribute their energy or their, you know, by spreading the word through conversations and networking, and some people, you know, through their pocketbook. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, like we were saying earlier, you know, I mean, it's just money is a tool. So we're happy to, you know, to be an outlet for that tool to be used in a positive way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think, so this being said, we've been talking about this, and then obviously I think as of, you know, let's say when this is out, you guys are going to have a Kickstarter going, and people are going to be able to donate money to help you guys actually make this move forward. And I think it's important to anybody who's listening that you guys go and consider donating some cash. Like, even $5, even $1, or anything can show your support to the campaign, and might lead to another person saying, hey, you know what, I should get on board on this. And even if it's not money, like, you know, John was saying, there's so many things that could be done. It could be your time. It could be starting a food is free movement in your town. And it could be as simple as picking up a couple of pallets, planting a couple of seeds directly in the earth, and letting that happen. You know, let this kind of movement flow through you and your neighborhood, and you don't even need to wait for everyone on your street to kind of plant a front yard garden. You can go and start kind of handing out the food that you're growing, or you can go out and just kind of ring their doorbell and say hi and introduce yourselves, you know. And this is something I've kind of been looking to do a little bit more, and I've been trying to talk to more and more of my neighbors, or when I pass somebody on the street, I try and smile a little bit more, or say hi or something. Like, just changing our own mindset is going to be a huge way that we can shift into this new world that we're kind of building together. And Facebook and the internet is such an important tool for that. And I guess I wonder also, maybe one of the ways that you guys could be a little bit sustainable is also through your website, right? Maybe there's growth that might happen through just the amount of people that are visiting your YouTube channel or visiting your website at any one moment, that can be a place for you guys to garnish more and more support as well.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I'm definitely, thank you so much for for helping to spread the word and all the support. And it's funny because we have like 130,000 fans online, and one person mentioned, yeah, I mean, if we each just donated $1, like that would be able to pay for your current property, but maybe y'all might want to consider what else that could buy too. But I mean, I don't know, it kind of that sort of blew my mind because I hadn't even really made that connection yet. I was like, geez, just like $1 can actually matter. $1 can, it's the same way that we sometimes feel like, we can't make a difference in the world, but it's that beautiful sense of connection. And when we realize that it's not just $1, it's $1 that's connected to the next dollar, that's connected to the next dollar, that when we all give whatever we can, whether it's $1 or whether it's just sharing it on your social media, I mean, all that just keeps adding up in ways that we really, it's so far past our horizon. We don't realize the change that we're inspiring every moment. Mm-hmm. And, so I those kinds of things just excite me, to see that add up,
Absolutely. So anything, I mean, what's the kind of next piece of the puzzle for you guys at this point? I mean, I know you guys, a lot of it's up in the air. Is there another element? Is there something you guys have been like secretly working on before any of this happened that you guys are excited to announce or excited to have come out? Is there something that maybe you want to use this platform to potentially, speak out about?
Totally. Well, I mean, lately, because we've had all these cities, reach out to us to start their branches of Food is Free. And, I always tell people, a Food is Free project will look different in every city because, if you're in New York City, maybe you have to plant on your rooftop or in your windowsill or in, guerrilla garden in an overgrown lot or in a public park, who knows? But if you're in Austin, Texas, we have a front yard and, we can do it this way. So it's going to always look different in every city, but so we've had these 190 cities reach out and we're thinking, how can we best empower them? So we're going to be doing like an online open source kind of map of the world where you can at least see where all the current projects are located and have like be able to maybe see some photographs or connect to that kind of point person. But also, start to generate different hashtags for different cities and different projects so that our website can kind of be a portal where people can come and be like, oh, I didn't realize there was already a Food is Free project in my town. Maybe I want to go connect with that person. Or when they say, I've just started my first, front yard garden, I want to put myself on the map, so that's sort of what we've been, putting our energy into, and right until all this happened. So we see that as really the first next step for how we can start connecting these dots. Because, although we have a lot of followers on social media, the questions I'm asking myself are how can our followers and how can this community not just be followers? How can they interact with each other and how can they have conversations with each other? Because we all have so much to offer. So because if I could talk with someone in Australia, we may be in different totally different parts of the world, but maybe they have drought issues just like we do here in Texas, and maybe they have solutions that we can learn from, and we can tell them about our wicking beds and they can teach us about aquaponics. And so, starting to open up those pathways of communication is the next step of our vision. And what we realize is that 99.9% of the people who've heard of Food is Free probably haven't ever been to our farm, but maybe they've heard about us through a conversation or maybe through one of our videos online, and that's totally cool too, So what we realize is that is also an opportunity, because that means no matter where we are, we can be, creating this content, creating these forums of dialogue, and being able to empower all these people, and we can still, no matter where our location is, we'll still have an open farm that is accessible, that people can come and learn and teach and hopefully stay on and get their hands dirty for like a good intensive period of time as well if they wish. But either way, we just went to the coffee shop last week and And the lady who was helping us out was like, "Oh, food is free. Like I I haven't been able to make it out, but I watched your video and I've built my first wicking bed garden, and I didn't quite have the exact supplies, so I ended up kind of swapping them for for this and that." And I was like, that's so cool. I was like, would you want to do a blog post about your your experience, because you took our idea and you made it your own and you made it work. And I just thought that was so awesome. But even though she's here in Austin, she was inspired by us through in a way through our web presence, which so that is what excites me too about the internet and the power of its connection. My dad, he's been a professor here at UT, and he was very active in the 60s, in the kind of the hippie movement, the protests, and a lot of he was one of the only professors on campus speaking out against the Vietnam War. And I asked him his opinion on the biggest difference between the movement that he experienced then in the 60s and kind of this kind of bigger resurgence of like the Occupy movement and these worldwide movements happening around the world. And what he realized was, back in, at least in his reality, what he was, his immediate sphere was really the United States. I mean, he couldn't really connect with people beyond that. And so what he realized is what is such a huge difference to the current movement is that it's definitely an international one, and it's also a local one. But all these local communities, they're also all connected in this bigger way, and they're connected in a way that it can only grow stronger, these connections.
Absolutely. I have to make note of the fact that I can hear the chickens in the background, which is awesome. Not to discredit anything or to like discount anything you just said, but just to say that to hear chickens in the background of a Skype call is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's great.
That's great.
I mean, look, I clearly we're on the same page. I think these global movements are happening, and what we need to do is be a part of them. What we need to do is be a part of them in more ways than one. And I think we also need to start putting our money where our mouth is. And so I think I'm going to kind of just end it there. I mean, I think, anybody who's looking for the link to the Food is Free project, Kickstarter, or where they could go and support, go to foodisfreeproject.org. You can learn more about what they're doing, more about what's going on. I'm sure they're going to have all their Kickstarter information and stuff is going to be there. But I'll also have all the link directly to the Kickstarter below. And go and find them on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever, and show your support that way. Because, as much as doing things in person is probably for sure the best thing you can do, the second thing is that also showing your support online changes the culture of the amount of people who now start talking about these things. Because if somebody else sees that you like Food is Free, and you see them at, I don't know, a bar or at a, the next social gathering that you have or something, they might bring it up. They'll be like, oh man, like, I actually started my first garden in my backyard the other day, or blah, 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 blah. And then that's what gets the conversation rolling. Because what we really need to do here is make sustainability sexy. We need to make gardening, we need to make kind of, I don't know, everything from off-the-grid housing to alternative energy and all these things. We need to make cool. And how we make things cool is by talking about them. And so just, guys, keep that in mind. Make sure to like this video, thumbs up. Go, like I said, go support them. Go help out as much as you possibly can. All of these different elements, on these different movements and initiatives. And please do subscribe to our podcast. Do rate it. Do like it. Do comment. If you have any questions for John and I, by all means, please write them in the comments below, and we will answer them as much as we possibly can. And man, thank you, John, for doing all the amazing work that you do, and for and thank you to whoever that person was who gifted you those seats, because that was a powerful moment right there.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate you, and I'm excited about staying connected with Valhalla and the Valhalla community, and seeing what other kind of ideas we can come up with about working together in the future.
Well, if you guys are getting enough money and you guys want to build some kind of sustainability learning center, or you guys need some housing plans or something, we're coming out with something, at Valhalla called the Valhalla Villas that we've been working on with a group of architects and engineers and stuff. And this is looking more and more real even for us. So yeah, I'd love to share this kind of info with you guys, and anybody who's listening as well. There's going to be a lot of this kind of information that will be pouring out soon on Greenseed and on Valhalla. So, stay tuned with our newsletter and whatnot. But yeah, John, definitely we will stay connected for sure.
Awesome. Sounds great, Mark.
All right. Thank you guys for listening.
All right, y'all. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, and don't forget to rate and leave a comment. Until next time, be the hero you've always dreamed of being.